How's it going, everyone? Akibana 0 here, and I'm back with a Sekiro Shadows Die Twice video. Game Informer recently sat down with lead game designer for Sekiro, Masaru Yamamura, to talk about the inclusion of tutorials in the game. This is quite surprising to hear, considering that we are talking about From Software, the legendary developer behind other legendary games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, which are very well known for not holding your hand. Soulsborne fans sing the praises of these games because they do not include any hand-holding whatsoever, so it came kind of a surprise to me when I heard about this. But what came out of the interview was something that I quite didn't expect. They're not aiming so much to create a tutorial as to create a learning experience, so to speak, for the game. I'll have a link to the full interview in the description below, and in this video I'm going to talk about two things that stood out for me with this from this interview. For starters, and something to keep in mind is that we have all been looking at Sekiro as the kind of spiritual successor to Dark Souls and Bloodborne, because we're making these games kind of synonymous with From at this point, and so it's kind of reasonable for us to expect that we're going to be getting another Dark Souls-like game. But Sekiro is a different sort of beast, and this is where I want to kind of touch on two important aspects of this. The first point that kind of stood out to me was that Yamamura was talking about how a lot of players who have played Dark Souls or have played Bloodborne, they approach those games in a certain way. So you've got your dodge, you've got your parry, you've got your shield. You have a bunch of tools at your disposal, and you fight in a certain way. In Dark Souls, you have a bit of a methodical approach. In Bloodborne, you use the rally system and are encouraged to attack more and gain health. But the thing about Sekiro is that it's a game that sort of expects you to approach situations in different ways. So you're not just expected to go out and fight, you're also expected to do things in a more sneaky, ninja-like sort of way. And to achieve that, you have mechanics that involve stealth, and you have other tools at your disposal that allow you to accomplish this. So what Yamamura was saying was that because Soulsborne players are used to playing a certain way, they felt it was important to introduce some of these concepts to the players so that they don't approach the game the same way they would approach the previous games. Now, this might sound quite patronizing to some people, like, as in, like, wait, what's going on here? I mean, we've all learned how to fend for ourselves in these games. Why are they suddenly wanting to do this? And some of you might be ready to say that it's Activision that's actually doing this, but it seems that it was From themselves that went to Activision and said, hey, we might need to include a certain form of a tutorial. Now, before you all start getting the pitchforks and the torches and all that and start storming From's gates, there's another point that was made by Yamamura which kind of makes things a lot more intriguing. So when we hear tutorial, we tend to think about button presses and the game telling us how to move left, how to move right, how to shoot, how to attack, how to do this, how to do that. This is not, though, what Yamamura is talking about. Yamamura has been talking about how the tutorial is not exactly meant to be a procedural sort of thing where you're supposed to do one thing after another and learn all the game like that. No, the way he wants to approach the tutorial was to introduce players to new concepts and new mechanics, and then just let the player feel challenged to go and use them, and then learn from the feedback and see what happens after using them. This kind of falls in line with the teaching methodology that basically states that you give the learner the tools, and the learner goes out and uses them and learns from using them. And I find that very interesting because I'm a teacher myself, and one of the things that greatly interests me about games is the way we learn. And the thing about tutorials in video games these days is that they mostly operate as a replacement to the now defunct booklet manual that we no longer get with our games. However, teaching and learning are at their best when we follow this notion of giving the learner the means, and the learner trying to find a way to use them and learn from using them. This is also how we build a learner's creativity. And I think this is a very Soulsborne way of doing a tutorial. It sounds like they have really thought about what this middle ground they wanted to achieve, because that was their aim, was to find a middle ground between giving a tutorial and also allowing players to still feel challenged. And I think this is a very, very nice way of doing it. The example that Yamamura gave was the posture mechanic. The posture mechanic is something new introduced in Sekiro, which can allow both enemies and Sekiro himself to deliver a death blow by making the opponent go off balance. And this is something that enemies can do to you as well, and it can be achieved in several different ways. It's very much tied to the parry as well. So parrying correctly can either make you go off balance or make the enemy go off balance. So this is one of the things that will probably be introduced in a certain way for that we have to figure out how to use after that. I'm very much excited about this news. I am very much looking forward to seeing how they're implementing a Soulsborne-like tutorial like that. I'm quite excited about it. And I'm also very excited for Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. It's almost around the corner, and I'm extremely excited to stream it. I can't wait to see what it is that From Software have devised this time, and I hope you guys will join me on this new Salt train when it does finally depart from the station. So how do you feel about a tutorial being included in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice? What do you think about what Yamamura is proposing? Sound off in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and subscribe to my channel by mashing on that subscribe button because it helps a lot. I'd like to thank my patrons as always for supporting me, and you can do the same by hitting up patreon.com/Akibana0. That's gonna do it with this video, guys. I'm gonna catch you next time.